back to Namma Laex Bangalore presents current issue of the day. Today we'll discuss one of the most debated topic in India, that is MGNREGA Act. There was a recent change in the name of MGNREGA Act and there were certain changes in the provision from the past NREGA Act. So we'll discuss what is this new act, why is it so controversial, and how are you going to address these issues if at all there is a question for you in the interview. So we'll discuss it first from the static point, first from the provisions point, and then we'll discuss the controversy surrounding it and how you should go about addressing these issues. So the topic is from MGNREGA to VBG Ramji Act 2025. Okay, so India's rural employment guarantee, will discuss evolution, provisions and the controversies. It is important for GS2, 3 as well as interview. So let us discuss. First we will discuss what is this employment guarantee matters and why this rural employment guarantee matters first. Okay, rural employment guarantee matters a lot because 65% of India's population depends on the rural economy for livelihood purposes, for livelihood and sustenance. 65% of the Indian population depends on the rural economy, and this rural economy in turn depends on MGNREGA. Okay, and this MGNREGA provides informal employment. That is, high proportion of informal sector workers are lacking job security and benefits, and these are absorbed by this MGNREGA Act. And economic shocks such as climate shocks, agrarian distress and seasonal migration create vulnerability. This vulnerability again is absorbed by MGNREGA Act. And then livelihood security. There is a need for guaranteed employment plus productive asset creation in the rural areas. So it is addressing two aspects. One is from the rural economy, that is employment and livelihood security, and from the government perspective it is asset creation. So it was addressing employment as well as asset creation issues. So it was focusing mainly on the social security, and it was leaning more towards the welfare state, it was leaning more towards the inclusive growth, and also it was based on the rights based approach. Okay, now what is this MGNREGA, which is a rights based welfare law? Okay, so it was brought in the year of 2005. What are the core features? It was enacted in 2005, and some of the important features were local guarantee of 100 days of employment in a year, legal guarantee of 100 days wage employment per household. Next is demand driven model. So this is where the new law is changing. So the old law or the old act was mainly dealing with demand driven model, that is work is provided based on the rural demand. Work is provided based on the rural demand, or the unemployment allowances were paid to the people who were not getting the jobs. Okay, next it was panchayat led decentralized implementation framework, and there were also regular social auditing happening. There were regular social auditing, and the payment was done with after 15 days of completion of work. So there were many safety provisions which are provided in the MGNREGA Act as well. Next, it protected, what is the philosophical foundation of MGNREGA? It protected the dignity of the labor, and it was based on the Gandhian principle of Sarvodaya in Antyodaya. What is this Antyodaya? That is upliftment of the poorest of poor. So Gandhiji believed in Sarvodaya, that is the development of all, or the upliftment of all depends on the Antyodaya. If the Antyodaya, that is the poorest of poor, are uplifted or developed, it is automatically going to have a trickle up effect, meaning everyone is going to get uplifted as well. So, and it was based on the Grama Swaraj. So one of the major philosophy of Gandhiji was Grama Swaraj, that is village self-governance. So that is why the name was Mahatma Gandhi NREGA Act. it had the core philosophies of Gandhiji, and also it provided employment guarantee of 100 days. Now, so and also one of the core idea is it was right based approach, that is employment as a legal entitlement and not administrative discretion. You will understand what is this administrative discretion and why are they talking about this legal entitlement versus administrative discretion. That is because of the new law. So this is about MGNREGA Act. So what was NREGA's role in Indian economy till now? It used to act as automatic stabilizer. What do you mean by automatic stabilizer? It provided legal safety net during the COVID-19 pandemic, drought years, economic downturns, meaning whenever there was a crisis of unemployment, whenever there was a crisis where people were not getting livelihood benefits or not getting livelihood opportunities, then NREGA acted as an automatic stabilizer. Okay, self-regulating mechanism that expands during the time of distress. Next was, it was focusing also on the women's participation because it consistently maintained 55 to 65% women participation rate, which promoted gender equality, especially in the rural economy, rural employment and economic independence, which provided economic independence to the women in the rural areas. Next is, it also acted as a migration control mechanism. What do you mean by this? Normally, the migration happens because of the push mechanisms, push or pull mechanisms. Normally, because there is less employment opportunities at the rural level, people used to migrate to the urban areas, which created issues at the urban centers. So this particular MGNREGA Act acted as a migration control measures because they are now getting employment opportunities in the rural areas itself. So they no longer have to shift to other areas. They no longer have to shift to urban areas in the search of employment opportunities. So it reduced distress migration by providing local employment opportunities, keeping families together and strengthening the rural communities. Next was asset creation. This generated durable assets including water conservation structures like ponds, lakes, etc., rural connectivity such as roads and community infrastructure across villages. So people were given employment to create assets. These assets were in turn helping the rural employment, helping the rural development. So on one side it is addressing the livelihood issues, on other side it is creating assets which in turn is addressing the rural economic issues, rural developmental issues. So it was a win-win situation. So NREGA was India's insurance policy against the rural distress. So you can use this word in your interview, that is NREGA was India's insurance policy in terms of rural distress. So now comes the question, what were the challenges under NREGA? There were certain challenges under NREGA, hence the new act or the new law is being proposed by the present government, present Modi-led government. So what were the challenges? First was the delayed wage payments. There were chronic delays in wage disbursement, undermining the program's credibility and also resulting in hardship to the beneficiaries. What is the idea? To provide livelihood opportunities, to provide livelihood income. But what is happening here? There is delayed disbursement of payments. What happens here is, so they are working without payment, meaning their livelihood is also not given, but they are working without any remuneration. Next, budget exhaustion. Frequent mid-year fund depletion, forcing suspension of works and denial of employment during the peak demand periods. So NREGA was also facing issues with respect to the budget because it is a revenue okay, it was having impact on the government exchequer because more money was to be kept aside for the NREGA. So because of the budget exhaustion, there was no budget allocated for NREGA. As a result, most of the people were removed from the works, meaning the works were stalled, and then center state tension was there all the time. That is disputes over the fund release, administrative procedures and implementation responsibilities, which strained federal relations. Previously, it was around 75 to 25%. The cost benefit sharing was 75% to the center, 25% to the states. So even within this, there were tensions between the center and states regarding the disbursement of funds. And then there was a question about asset quality concerns as well. That is poor planning, poor maintenance in some regions, resulting in suboptimal durability and utility of the created assets. If the assets created were suboptimal or of lesser durability or of no utility, then obviously it is defeating chief one of the chief objectives of NREGA, that is rural development or rural upliftment. If the assets are poor, then obviously it is not going to lead to rural development. And other concerns were technology exclusions. Normally, these implement was Aadhaar based payment systems and digital job cards, creating barriers for marginalized communities without documentation. Okay, so again, technology was integrated with respect to NREGA, but what was happening here is, because of the technological inclusion, many people were being excluded because they did not have necessary cards, necessary digital cards. Okay, these are some of the concerns. So now there is a new change, that is name change debate, that is from symbolism to statutory overall. In 2005, NREGA was enacted as Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. In the 2000s, there was a discourse emerges around the scheme, naming terms like VBG, Ramji, which was used in some quarters, and now it is going to be implemented as a new law. In 2024, the government initiatives comprehensive review of rural employment framework, which is aligned with Vikasit Bharat 2047. Okay, what is the major objective of government of India at the moment? It is Vikasit Bharat 2047. So they are trying to change all the schemes and trying to align them with Vikasit Bharat scheme. Hence, there was the necessity of the name change. Next, in the 2025, parliamentary law introduced complete statutory replacement, not mere renaming. Previously, there was a discourse whether the name should be changed, but now the discourse is not with respect to name changing. Now the discourse is about completely removing the previous act and bringing a new statutory act. So critical insight here is, this presents a statutory overhaul with the substantive changes to entitlements, funding mechanisms and federal structure, and not just a cosmetic rebranding. So we can say that NREGA is not being changing the names only, but it is completely replacing according to the needs and necessities of the present day, or according to the needs and necessities of the vision of Vikasit Bharat 2047. So what is this? The introduction of VBG Ramji Act 2025. So this Ram, many people have issues with this Ram, considering this to be Lord Rama. Okay, they are attaching this name with the Lord Rama, but the government's argument is that VB Ramji is a short form for Vikasit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivaka Mission Gramin 2025. That is the complete name of the act. Okay, Vikasit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivaka Mission Gramin 2025. Okay, so this is the issue. So what is this? We'll discuss first the provisions. First is, this replaces NREGA. There is a complete replacement of MGNREGA Act of 2005, and then there is a new legal architecture, creates fresh employment guarantee structure with the revised provisions. We'll discuss what is this provisions, and this is aligned with Vikasit Bharat. As I told you, the government is aiming to achieve this Vikasit Bharat status by 2047. So there is changes aligning with the Vikasit Bharat. Integrates with the international vision for developed India by 2047. Next is development focus, that is shifts emphasis from the welfare safety net to infrastructure led growth. So this is the point of contention. Apart from the name changes, this is one of the major point of contention, from the right based welfare approach to the infrastructure led asset creation approach. So we'll discuss what are the key provisions. In the key provisions, the employment guarantee has been increased from 100 days to 125 days. So increased employment days are provided under the new law, but quantity increase, but the access condition on the budget availability and administrative decisions. That is, NREGA continues depending, VB Ramji 125 days are given depending on the access conditional on the budget availability and the administrative decision. This is where the point of contention is. What if there is no budget availability? What if there is no administrative decisions which are aligning with the VB Ramji schemes? Will they be provided with 125 days or not? And apart from this, the funding model transformation in the NREGA approach. In the NREGA, it was mainly demand driven allocation based on the demand from the employment or the demand from the rural areas, and open ended central funding, and it was supplementary grants during the crisis it was provided. But in the VB Ramji, this is normative annual allocations. It will be provided with the annual allocation for MGNREGA, and the sharing of funds is 60 is to 40 between center and state. Previously it was 75 to 25% was the sharing between center and state. Now it is 60 to 40% between center and states, and it is 90 to 10% in the northeastern or Himalayan states, and 100% for the union territories. This is also one of the point of contention. Next, what else? It provides coverage, flexibility, and planning framework. This is what separates it from MGNREGA Act. So there is union notified coverage, that is employment guarantee applicable only in rural areas specifically notified by the central government, which is creating potential exclusion zones, preventing or creating exclusion zones because it is notified by the central government. Then agricultural flexibility. This act also provides pause days. State empowered to pause scheme implementation for up to 60 days. This provides pause days of 60 days. Pause days of 60 days during the peak agricultural seasons to address labor availability concerns. Okay, it is going to address the labor availability concerns whenever there is peak agricultural seasons, because they need more laborers on the agricultural side. What happens if the NREGA is there? More of the laborers will go for MGNREGA or VB Ramji works rather than going into the agricultural fields, which creates a labor crisis in the agriculture. Next is Vikasit Gram Panchayat plans. So this is where the planning is very important here. Introduction of Vikasit Gram Panchayat plans as a planning tool linking panchayat level priorities with the district and national infrastructure development strategies. Okay, so this is also one of the important novel invention of this particular scheme. So a creation focus, this focuses on asset creation focus, that is water security structure, core rural infrastructure, livelihood linkages, linked assets, and climate resilient and disaster mitigation works. Next is governance questions, that is, does the flexibility serve administrative efficiency or undermine the fundamental rights? So that is the question here. We'll discuss. Before that, we'll discuss NREGA versus VB Ramji Act comparative analysis. Is the nature of guarantee in NREGA was rights based legal entitlement, and it was demand driven. Now it is normative and it is budget linked availability. So normative allocation. Next, employment days from 100 to 125 days. Funding model, open ended central funding to center state allocation. Federal balance, center bears primary function financial accountability in responsibility in NREGA, whereas here increased state fiscal burden. Planning approach, decentralized panchayat led, here integrated with the national infrastructure priorities, that is Vikasit Bharat schemes, but it will be implemented by Vikasit Gram Panchayat plans. Philosophical focus, it was welfare and livelihood security. Now this is development and asset creation. So this is everything about NREGA and VB Ramji scheme. Let us discuss about the controversies surrounding this VB Ramji scheme. First controversy surrounding this VB Ramji scheme is the federalism concerns. As I told you, now the funding has been changed from 75-25% to 60 is to 40%. So the many states are in opposite of this act, because it is going to increase the burden on the states. States are already suffering from issues with respect to fiscal accountability or fiscal autonomy. Now they have to separately keep funds for this act again. So this is one of the core issues. There is a criticism and opposition from the states. Next is with respect to rural poor. That is, previously in the MGNREGA, the work was provided during the crisis. Now work during the crisis is going to reduce because there is a pause period. And next, pause period will also result in the controversies surrounding the labor wage. What do you mean by this? Normally what happens here is, if there are two works, one is working in the agriculture labor, other is working in the MGNREGA schemes. So previously what used to happen was, if these agricultural farmers wanted certain labors, they had to offer amount which is greater than the NREGA. Suppose say MGNREGA was providing 200 rupees per day or 200 rupees per a work. Now if they want, the agricultural persons wanted their work or the laborers, then they would have to provide something that is greater than 200 rupees, that is say 250 rupees. Now if there is a pause period of 60 days during this agricultural activities, what happens here is, the laborers, like especially the landless laborers and the marginalized farmers, do not have any other alternatives. So if they are offered 150 rupees also, they will be forced to work here because there is no alternative for them. So there is no minimum labor wage. And also if there is less minimum labor wages, this will also increase migration during this period. Why? Because they are getting less here, so they will go to other areas in search of better income. So one of the issues which was addressed by NREGA was migration control. But now what this VB Ramji scheme is going to do, can like, not sure it is going to 100% result in migration control, but there are chances that it can lead to migration. So it can lead to stop on that particular migration control. And the third is, vulnerability for the marginal farmers and the landless laborers increases, because the marginal farmers will not be able to match the payment given by the rich farmers, and the landless laborers are forced to work in fields with minimum wages compared to what they used to get in NREGA or what they used to get in VB Ramji schemes. Next is dilution of right to work here, because we are focusing mainly on the asset creation. The dilution of right to work is happening here. Okay. Next is name change. So this is one of the point of contention. This has been become a political in nature. Like, this is mainly ethical debate. So why the name of Mahatma Gandhi is removed here? As I told you, the philosophical backing of MGNREGA was Antyodaya and Sarvodaya, Grama Swaraj. Though the ideals of Grama Swaraj and Antyodaya and Sarvodaya are still there in VB Ramji Act, why there is a need to change Mahatma Gandhi? So it was not necessary. And then politicization. So the criticism was that you are converting MGNREGA or Mahatma Gandhi name into Ram. So though it is a short form for something else, there is a hidden meaning promoting a certain sections of the society, which is going to de-alienate certain sections of the society, which is going to alienate certain sections of the society. Next, erosion of moral philosophy, which was based on the Gandhian philosophies. But here the point is, even Mahatma Gandhi also wanted a nation on the lines of Ramarajya. His idea was to create a Ramarajya. But again, it depends on your ideals. It depends on the way you are going to present your answer here. And the final debate was about welfare versus development. MGNREGA focused mainly on rights-based approach, focused mainly on the livelihood safety net. But now the government is aiming to create durable assets. So the very idea of VB Ramji is creation of durable assets. So the focus is more on creation of durable assets. But whereas the critics argue that it should be livelihood safety net and not the duration assets. So these are the controversies. So as a UPSC aspirant attending the interview, how are you going to address these questions, answer these questions? You need to take a balanced view. With respect to VB Ramji scheme, there are more strengths compared to the risks. But you cannot be completely in support of VB Ramji scheme, because there should be certain thought on the implementation process and you should be addressing the risks. Okay, for example, there is a question with respect to changing the names. You can say they are within their right to change the name, aligning with Vikasit Bharat, which is going to be our motto for 2047. And even Gandhiji himself would have agreed for a Rama Raja, agreed for a scheme which is promoting his ideals of Antyodaya and Sarvodaya or Grama Swaraj. And with respect to central state funds, there you can take a stand saying that center initially should provide more heavy lifting with respect to finances, because states are already suffering from financial issues. And with respect to this pause hours, there should be certain minimum wage limit which should be provided here, and the labor code should be implemented strictly, not only in the informal sector but also in the agriculture as well. So So that should be your way forward, or that should be your answer. It should be balanced. Though you like NREGA, though you might like Ramji scheme, or you are in favor of government, or you are in favor of opposition, you have to take a balanced view. It doesn't mean that you have to support it or you have to completely criticize it. Whatever is your opinion, you have to have certain justifications for it. Okay, so this is today's discussion. In the coming days, we'll discuss about social issues such as marital rape, such as uniform civil code, and we'll discuss other issues such as LGBTQ, same-sex marriages, and how you should go about addressing these topics in the interview. So with this, I will be ending the video. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.